U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Welcome to today's retirement ceremony for Colonel John Hudson. Ladies and gentlemen, our special guests attending today's ceremony include the Lieutenant Governor of Nebraska, Mike Foley, Colonel Aaron Dorff, and Colonel Mark Himes. Colonel Hudson's wife, Carolyn, sons William and Joshua, and daughter Elizabeth, Colonel Hudson's parents, Tom and Jean Hudson, and unfortunately, Colonel Hudson's son, Daniel, is unable to attend today's ceremony as he began his freshman year at Georgia Tech. Also present are many members of the Omaha district team. Thank you for attending. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the national anthem sung by Colonel Retired Kurt Ubalodi and the invocation.
Dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, with broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, sir. Delivering today's invocation is Mr. Ted Struckfuss.
I invite each of you to bow your head and pray. Giver of life and Almighty Lord our God, this afternoon we come to you with deep gratitude in our hearts for all of the gifts that you have given us. What an honor to call upon you and to know that we not only can, but are invited to ask your presence into our midst. I pray this afternoon that you bless this gathering, that you bless this company of people and keep us safe during times of trial, and that you especially bless Colonel John Hudson and his family for their service to nation and for his time with us these past 3 years. Sustain him in his transition as he retires from the United States Army following 26 faithful years of service and seeks new adventures in other venues to give him strength for his labors and wisdom equal to every task. Grant abundant blessings upon Colonel Hudson, Carolyn, and his family as they look to new opportunities to apply their time and talents. We ask that you keep your hand of grace upon him as he guides and directs actions and activities in his future endeavors. Watch over him and his loved ones through all times of trial. Grant him and his family success in every good initiative so that his many future responsibilities may be accomplished and that he might find satisfaction in whatever work or task that he embarks upon. Your strength enables us to protect others. Your providence keeps us safe. Help us to turn our hearts and minds towards you each and every day. In the name of the Creator, the Savior, and the Sustainer. Amen.
Thank you, Ted. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The Army Retirement Ceremony is a time-honored tradition, an expression of our sincere appreciation for a career of dedication, devotion to duty, commitment, and extraordinary service to our soldiers, civilians, families, and nation. It is time when we say thanks for the sacrifices and when we recognize the tremendous positive impact the retiring soldier has had on our Army and those who are privileged to serve alongside him. It is a great day of significance, marking the end of a rewarding life in uniform. It is also when we honor and recognize the families without whose love and support our Army cannot succeed. Today is where we mark the transition from one phase of life to the beginning of another. In honor of 26 years of distinguished military service, Brigadier General Helminger will now present Colonel Hudson with the Department of Army Legion of Merit Award for exceptionally meritorious service. Ladies and gentlemen, although it is customary for people to rise during this portion of the ceremony, we kindly request that you remain seated during the award presentations. The citation reads, "For exceptionally meritorious service throughout a distinguished Army career, culminating as the Omaha District Commander, Northwestern Division, Colonel Hudson served brilliantly and demonstrated exemplary leadership of his 1,200-person workforce. He successfully executed a $10 billion civil works, military, and emergency management program across a 10-state area, delivered the Rocky Mountain Veteran Affairs Medical Facility and United States Strategic Command Headquarters mega projects, and provided decisive leadership in response to historic Missouri River flooding and a coronavirus pandemic. Colonel Hudson's selfless service and distinguished performance are in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the United States Army, and the nation. Signed, Todd T. Semonite, Lieutenant General, U.S. Army Commanding."
All right, congratulations.
Additionally, Colonel Hudson is being presented the Silver Flurry Medal for exceptionally significant impact on the Army Engineer Regiment over a period that spans numerous assignments in various units and organizations within the regiment. The Flurry Medal, named after François-Louis de Fleury, a French engineer who volunteered to serve in the American Army in its fight for independence from Britain. De Fleury was appointed a captain of engineers and served courageously in numerous battles and was promoted to lieutenant colonel. It was at the Battle of Stony Point where Lieutenant Colonel de Fleury led the recapturing of a fort and was vital in that victory. For these actions, the Continental Congress struck a medal in his honor, which was quickly adopted by the Engineer Regiment. The de Fleury is awarded at different levels: steel for junior soldiers and civilians within the regiment, bronze for those who rendered significant service or support to the regiment, silver is only awarded to an individual who has rendered outstanding and significant support to the regiment, and gold, which is typically awarded to just 2 individuals each year. this time, Brigadier General Helminger would like to present a token of appreciation, framed colors from the Northwestern Division, along with coins from all 5 districts, to Colonel Hudson on behalf of the men and women of the Northwestern Division. These colors and coins symbolizes the division's appreciation for Colonel Hudson, whose leadership at regional and enterprise level charted a course for future success within the region. At this time, on behalf of the Omaha District Corporate Board, Ted Streckfus will be presenting an engraved wooden castle coin holder as a token of appreciation from the Omaha District leadership. At this time, Mrs. Hudson is going to be escorted to join her husband as they celebrate the end of his distinguished military career and the beginning of their new adventures together. Mrs. Carolyn Hudson is receiving the Public Service Commendation Medal. The citation reads, "For exemplary service to the Omaha District, Northwestern Division, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the military community from July 2017 to July 2020. Mrs. Hudson's leadership in the Omaha District as a senior military spouse was exceptional. She was an active volunteer within the district and community, planned formal and informal events for military and civilian families, and served as an ambassador for the U.S. Army spouses and families. Carolyn's thoughtfulness, compassion for others, and devoted commitment epitomize what it means to be an Army spouse. Her patriotism, public service, and commitment reflect great credit upon herself, the Northwestern Division, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Signed, Peter D. Helminger, Brigadier General, U.S. Army, Commanding." Mrs. Hudson is now being presented the Essayons Award. The Essayons Award pays homage to all the great spouses across the Engineer Regiment. The award honors spouses who have voluntarily made significant contributions to the morale, welfare, and spirit of engineer units and organizations. Brigadier General Helminger will now present a certificate of appreciation to Mrs. Hudson. Mrs. Hudson is receiving a certificate of appreciation on the occasion of the retirement of her husband from the United States Army. It reads, "You have earned grateful appreciation for your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible your spouse's lasting contribution to the nation." Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. Colonel Hudson is now being presented with the U.S. flag, signifying his unwavering devotion to the United States of America and to the Constitution. Colonel Hudson will now receive a certificate of retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. The certificate reads, "This is to certify that Colonel John Hudson, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Army on the 31st day of December 2020. Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army Chief of Staff." On behalf of the soldiers, civilians, and families of Omaha District, red roses are now going to be presented to Mrs. Carolyn Hudson. Red is the color of the heart and reflects the loving concern that Mrs. Hudson has shown for the district and its families, as well as our appreciation for her support and contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a moment of applause for their 26 years of service. Ladies and gentlemen, I now present the commander of the Northwestern Division, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Brigadier General Peter Helmlinger.
All right, hey, thank you, Lance.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this fabulous day. To our distinguished guests, including Lieutenant Governor Mike Foley, members, partners, and veterans of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and friends and family of the Hudsons, thank you for joining us on this beautiful and momentous day. It is an honor to be with you here today as we retire Colonel John Hudson from the active roles of the U.S. Army. Today is the culmination of a remarkable 26-year military career, and we are here to honor John and Carolyn and their children, Daniel, William, Elizabeth, and Josh, for their many years of service, dedication, and sacrifice for our nation. So please join me in a warm recognition for them all. As you heard earlier, I just want to note that the Hudson's oldest son, Daniel, was not able to join us today as he is a freshman at Georgia Tech. But I can guarantee you he'd rather be here today with his family than at COVID lockdown on campus. But we're glad he's able to continue his education there, and we know he's with us today in thought. I also want to recognize John's parents, Tom and Jean Hudson. We're incredibly proud of your son and glad that you could be here with us today. So give me a round of applause. I feel especially honored that John asked me to preside over this ceremony. I have known John in multiple assignments since 2002, and I have always been inspired by his energy, dedication, intelligence, passion, and tenacity. It is bittersweet to see him retire after his very successful command of the Omaha District, and to retire with so much untapped potential to serve in positions of even greater responsibility for our Army. But John and his family have done their share of duty for our nation, and I am truly excited for the opportunities before them in their next chapter of life. As we close his 26-year military chapter, I do want to share with you all some of the highlights. John is a 1994 graduate of the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. He is clearly an overachiever, and since then now holds 3 master's degrees and is a professional engineer. He's also an airborne ranger and began his career as a combat engineer at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where he completed 27 airborne jumps. While at Fort Bragg, he made the best decision of his life and irrevocably changed it for the better when he married Carolyn at the Main Post Chapel 24 years ago. So please join me in a round of applause for Carolyn and John. And a very fun fact is that Carolyn was best friends with John's sister Kate, who could not be here today. And at some point in John's career, he saw the light and recognized the best path before him, and it's been 24 years of bliss since then. So congratulations to you all. So since then, in that 24 years of bliss, they've been moved 14 times. John has held 17 positions in the Army, none longer than his last assignment here in the Omaha district. And they've had 4 children, which are great souvenirs of their multiple moves in the Army. Daniel, who's age 18, was born in Bamberg, Germany. William, before us, age 16, was born in Lawrence, Kansas. Elizabeth, age 13, was born in Colorado Springs. And Josh, age 11 and a half, was born in Schweinfurt, Germany. So John has also been assigned and served in temporary duties in nearly 30 countries and deployed 3 times to Iraq, where he earned 3 Bronze Star medals and the Combat Action Badge. In 2003, he was a combat engineer company commander with leading 99 soldiers for the Operation Iraqi Freedom Tip of the Spear support of the 3rd Infantry Division and crossed into Iraq on the very first day of the invasion. He later changed out of command on top of Haditha Dam at the Euphrates River in western Iraq. So I guess it was inevitable that your career would evolve around dams. In 2005 to 6, he was the officer in charge of the largest Corps of Engineer reconstruction office in Iraq, located in the International Zone, or Green Zone, with responsibility over reconstruction efforts in central and southwest Baghdad. And in 2008 to 2009, he was the 9th Engineer Battalion Executive Officer in South Central Iraq, and Bob Kalzu was part of the 172nd Infantry Brigade. And I clearly remember that assignment because I was in a different unit, and my MRAP, my mine-resistant armor-protected vehicle, broke down and burned down right outside his base, and John and his unit came to rescue me, so thank you. John has also served 6 total years in Germany, 2 years in Hanau with the 130th Engineer Brigade, 2 years in Bamberg with the 54th Engineer Battalion, and 2 years in Schweinfurt with the 9th Engineer Battalion. Notably, John and Carolyn have shipped several hundred pounds of Polish pottery home from Europe. And John told me that that's not an exaggeration. All right, John's also made a dozen trips to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan over a 2-year period, working for the Defense Logistics Agency, where he bought construction materials in support of operations in Afghanistan. More recently, John served as the Executive Officer to the Chief of Engineers. And finally, over the past 3 years, John superbly commanded the 1,200 members of the Omaha District, executing over $6 billion worth of engineering and construction, including completion of the Aurora, Colorado Veterans Administration Medical Facility, U.S. Stratcom Command and Control Facility, 2019 Missouri River Flood Recovery Program, and construction of 3 COVID-19 alternate care facilities. Just truly remarkable accomplishments. John and his family have had a remarkable career and adventures. I've been fortunate to witness parts of it, and recently learned that our paths likely first crossed back in 1986, when John was an Eagle Scout and attended the annual West Point Boy Scout and Girl Scout Camporee, which I supported as a West Point cadet. John still lives by the Scout Law and Oath and has raised his family to do the same, and both with Daniel and William recently earning their Eagle rank, and John's father also an Eagle Scout. So we've got 3 generations of Scouts in the family. And John, as I reflected back on that probably teenager that I ran into at Lake Frederick at West Point many years ago, I happened to find this patch from the 1986 West Point Camporee, and I'm sure you have a matching one, but now you have 2. So I'm just proud to present this to you. So I first spent a large block of time with John in the summer of 2003 after he had relinquished command and was preparing to redeploy from Iraq to Germany and move his family to earn a master's degree in civil engineering at the University of Kansas. At the last minute, our brigade commander directed John to write a history report of the 130th Engineer Brigade about the invasion of Iraq. Now, John could have whipped through this quickly to expedite his return home, but he stayed an extra 3 weeks in theater to get the job done right and leave a lasting... So word has it that you volunteered to stay. But anyway, this is one of the many examples of his tremendous dedication and sacrifice by his family who learned that Daddy wouldn't be coming home as soon as they had thought. I've known John in many assignments, but got to know him best in his final role as the Omaha District Commander. I can't praise John enough for his incredible leadership, care for people, and tenacity solving complex problems. He truly exemplifies the highest ideals of a U.S. Army officer, and I am proud to have served with him. I want to thank John, you, and Carolyn and your family for your service. John has certainly impressed countless other people, from young soldiers to citizens impacted by flooding to the highest levels of leadership in the Army and Congress. And I would like to recognize our elected officials and staff for joining us today. I would also like to share a few words from some of John's former bosses. Major General retired Ed Jackson was John's former battalion commander and wrote, "John Hudson and I have known each other since 2002 when I took command of the 54th Engineer Battalion and he commanded Company A. John was a talented, intellectually curious, and enthusiastic leader during our time together in Germany and Iraq. My first encounter with John, however, was not so pleasant. At the time I took command, John was deployed on a NATO exercise with the Allied Rapid Reaction Corps. I was called in my first week by our brigade commander, Colonel Greg Martin, to let me know that several of John's soldiers had been evacuated to an Italian medical unit. Apparently, in an act of bravado, two young soldiers dared each other to eat a piece of highly toxic explosive C4. The young soldier who initiated the dare immediately spit his out, but the other soldier swallowed it whole. Needless to say, both became violently ill and became something of an international incident when the reason for their evacuation was discovered by the U.S. Army Europe senior leadership. 2 weeks later, I was called into the office of the 5th Corps Deputy Commanding General and read the Riot Act as he called into question my ability to lead. So General Jackson says, "Thank you, John." Now, several months later, the same soldier who initiated the C4 eating incident got drunk with a buddy, and they decided to jump up and down on the car of a local German man. After the soldier, named Private First Class Inch, sobered up a bit, I called the entire chain of command, from private to captain, into my office and directed they don their Class A uniforms and go and apologize to the nice German and assure him that the damages to his car would be properly addressed by Private Inch. After this second incident, I had intended to take action to kick Inch out of the Army, but John and First Sergeant Lawrence came to his rescue and convinced me otherwise. They saw something in Inch and I wanted to give them and the chain of command another opportunity. I acquiesced. Wouldn't you know it, that same Private Inch, several years later, was Staff Sergeant Inch and awarded the Silver Star for personal action under fire to save his entire platoon. The last time I checked, Inch was a First Sergeant himself. That's what good leaders do. They take care of their soldiers. John was one of the best, and his men loved him for it. In early 2003, while in Kuwait, John and A Company were tasked to organize with the 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 3rd Infantry Division for the ground invasion of Iraq, where he and his sappers breached and marked our way across the border. John subsequently distinguished himself in support of the 10th Engineer Battalion, to whom A Company was attached when they took their first M1A1 Panther breacher into combat and cleared airfields en route to Baghdad. John and his company headquarters team were present the day a rocket made a direct hit over the 2nd Brigade Combat Team Tactical Operations Center, killing and injuring dozens of soldiers. John and his men assisted in evacuating the wounded, and I remember him reporting to me the day or so later and showing me his shredded green Army notebook, an indication of just how close he came to prematurely meeting the Almighty. Although shaken, he maintained his sense of humor about the incident, downplaying his role and helping others in the chaos. This was an indication of his humility and that God continues to have big plans for John. Since our time in the 54th Engineers, I've served with John in a variety of USACE assignments. John brought the same leadership qualities to the Corps. His many technical talents, continued intellectual curiosity, especially with the pit stocks in Nashville District, and unbridled enthusiasm endured him endeared him to the incredible civilian employees of USACE. John is simply a genuine, caring, and devoted leader who always puts others before himself. He is the first and foremost a servant to God, his family, and the Army, and will be missed, but he has made a true impact that will be felt for decades. Now, the best decision John ever made was to marry Carolyn. In jest, Mark Wilson and I asked John what he had to do to convince Carolyn to say yes. So I guess persistence and providence are appropriate words to use in that regard. Together they are a tremendous team. Carolyn's leadership in her own family, with other families, and within the chapel community at each of their stops has made a huge difference. More so than her extreme efforts on behalf of others, what distinguishes Carolyn most is her grace at which she serves. Lynn shared with me often that Carolyn is both an inspiration and example to her personally. She is a wonderful person, genuine and caring, who gives all of herself every day for others. John is indeed a lucky man, as all of us are for sure. We will remain in touch with John and Carolyn, although not together as much as we would like. We love them both and wish them the very best in their next chapter. Wonderful words from General Jackson. John also worked for Lieutenant General retired Thomas Bostick, the 53rd Chief of Engineers, and he wrote, "John served as my executive officer when I was the Chief of Engineers. He did a magnificent job. Whenever someone interviewed to become my XO, aide, or chief of staff, I always ask the candidate to check with their spouse to see what they thought, because these positions are incredibly demanding." Thankfully, John had his family's full support. At least that's what he told them. And one day that came in handy. Executive officers must think on their feet quite often, and John was an ace at that. During one of my many trips, the pilots landed at a different airport than we had planned. John dropped everything and drove his personal car from Washington, D.C. to the airport where we landed at Davidson Airfield near Fort Belvoir, Virginia. My driver was at the wrong airport at Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland. As I stepped into John's car, I thought more about the sacrifices that John had made to serve as the executive officer with small children at home. He had a baby car seat with chicken nuggets and fries tucked in the seat and all over the floor from the children. But I was not complaining. John was there to pick us up right when we landed. He drove to my quarters at Fort McNair in Washington, D.C. This was just one of the many, many extraordinary efforts that I witnessed each day that John served as my executive officer. Importantly, John came into the office each day with a smile on his face, and his positive attitude reflected in everyone in the command room. So congratulations to John on his retirement. Thank you and your family for your many sacrifices while serving as my executive officer, enduring an illustrious career. Please let me know if you ever need assistance, even if you're stuck in an airport somewhere. I owe you that much and more. S.A. Ox. Lieutenant General retired Todd Semonite is the 54th Chief of Engineers, and he wrote, "Connie and I have known John and Carolyn for over 20 years. They are an amazing couple and a true military family, committed to our Army and the Engineer Regiment, a team that will certainly be missed. John was one of my best junior captains I've known, and through the years developed into one of the very best colonels in the regiment. We first met at the Hudsons while we were serving together in Hanau in 2000. I had selected John to be my construction officer for the Corps Engineer Brigade, where he did projects all over Europe and Africa, all designed to help bring the former Eastern Bloc countries into NATO. I was so impressed by his technical and leadership expertise that I moved him into one of my most challenging company commands, Alpha Company 54th Engineers, just before the attack into Iraq, where they both excelled supporting the mission. I was thrilled to have him serve as my first executive officer when I became the 54th Chief of Engineers, and I later slated him to command one of the largest and most complex districts in the Corps, which he commanded magnificently. His passion for service and initiative are unmatched, and he clearly delivered a world-class program. We continue to see the Hudsons around USACE and the regiment, as they both have a passion to serve and a legacy of making a difference in the lives of soldiers, civilians, and support to our community wherever they are. Connie and I wish them all the best in their next adventure. And finally, Lieutenant General Scott Spellman, our 55th Chief of Engineers and former Northwestern Division Commander, sends his regards and wishes all the best for John and Carolyn. So as I wrap this up, I'd like to say to John and Carolyn, on behalf of the thousands of soldiers, civilians, and family members whose lives you have touched and mentored through the years, I say thank you. On behalf of the Engineer Regiment, the Army, and a grateful nation, I say well done. Congratulations on your successful military career. Thank you for your selfless service. You leave a legacy that will last for generations. Best wishes to you and the entire Hudson family in life's next chapter. You are Army strong and a soldier for life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel John Hudson, former Commander, Omaha District.
Okay, well, what a beautiful afternoon. Welcome, and thank you for coming to the ceremony. Lieutenant Governor Foley, it is indeed an honor to have you here in attendance this afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with Governor Ricketts over the last year and a half as we had a tremendous effort to do the flood recovery since March of 2019, the flooding on the Missouri River. So it's been an honor to have you here today. I'd also like to thank the representatives from Senator Grassley's, Senator Sass, Congressman Fortenberry's office for attending today. Rita, it's always great to see you. One of the highlights of District Command, both here in Omaha and in Nashville District, has been to work with the governors, the congressional delegation, and the local mayoral leadership on working tough and challenging issues like the flood we experienced last year. And also in the case of Nashville, working on the inland waterway system with all the locks and the challenges with keeping our interstate commerce going on the rivers. General Helmlinger, thank you again for hosting today's event and for your very generous and kind comments. You know, obviously we've served together now for nearly 20 years, and some of my very toughest assignments with you, whether that was there during the invasion in '03 where you stuck me in a broom closet to write a history, which you addressed earlier, or our year that we spent together with General Bostic serving the chief in the executive office, and then obviously most recently the last 2 years when I had the great honor of serving here in Omaha District. Your leadership and help in dealing with the flood was enormous, and I greatly appreciate your friendship and mentorship over the last nearly 2 decades. To our many other distinguished guests, dear friends, and family, many of whom are watching here virtually, thank you for taking the time to join Carol and I on this very special day. I also want to give a very special thank you to Major Lance Peterson, Janelle Shear, George Keel, who's up in the back working the sound, Jeremy Bell, who put the programs together, Zane Eklund, and Naomi Gilchrist, who are doing the PAO functions here today. You all have done a tremendous job putting the ceremony together, and we really, Carol and I are very grateful for your willingness and help in doing so. And Colonel Ubalodi, Colonel Retired Ubalodi, former Omaha District Commander, thank you so much for your beautiful rendition here of the National Anthem. And also thank you for your mentorship over the years. It was some 15 years ago when I contacted you while I was in grad school and said, "Hey, sir, I'd really like to come work in your district." And I think you were sufficiently amused by the request that you got me a slot. And, you know, who would have known that it would ultimately have led to the opportunity to command that same district about 15 years later and it's been a true honor and privilege to know you and be mentored by you. So God has really blessed Carolyn and I tremendously. The last 26 and a half years has been an amazing adventure. Back on 13 May in 1994, when I rose my right hand as an ROTC student at the University of North Carolina, I was commissioned as second lieutenant in the Corps of Engineers. At the time, I had no intent of making the Army a career. I'd only done it to pay for school. The plan was I was going to get out 4 years, go become an architect, and design great masterpieces and become famous as an architect. So what changed my mind? Well, there's a number of factors. First, I found the Army to be a great challenge. Airborne school, Ranger school, being an airborne platoon leader at Fort Bragg and then a company commander over in Europe. Then I found the Army to be a great adventure. After Carolyn and I got married at Fort Bragg and I was promoted to a first lieutenant, we've now had 14 homes in our 24 years of marriage, including 6 years in Germany, and we've traveled to over 25 countries. I found the Army to be a dynamic and ever-changing environment, having 17 different jobs, 3 deployments to the RAC, and only once was I almost fired. But the biggest influence has been the soldiers, leaders, and friends that Carol and I have had over the years, and the great fortune we've had to work alongside them and get to know them. The list is far too long to mention today of those who have significantly influenced me throughout my career, but I do want to take the moment to mention just a few. First, there was Major Dawson Hancock. He was my ROTC instructor at UNC Charlotte. He convinced me after I got orders to Fort Bragg that I needed to go to Ranger School. It wasn't until I got to Ranger School that I realized it was a voluntary course. And then there was Captain Jeff Harrison, one of my first company commanders, along with my platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Rutherford, who later became Command Sergeant Major Rutherford. Between Captain Harrison's fantastic leadership as a company commander and the great leadership of Sergeant Rutherford, I had 2 great models in which to start developing and building my leadership on, and inspired me to go on and do company command. As a captain, I was truly blessed to have phenomenal leaders in Germany. Lieutenant General Semonite and Major General Martin were exceptional brigade commanders, both dynamic and engaging leaders. My 2 battalion commanders, General Rapp and Jackson. And yes, that story about Private Inch and General Jackson was absolutely true. I was convinced I was going to be relieved of command through the whole incident. But it's an example how a young, motivated soldier sometimes makes tough decisions, poor decisions, but when given the chance and with good leadership, he himself became a great leader in our Army today. I'm sure someday he will be a sergeant major down the road. So General Jackson and General Rapp, they both created a fantastic command climate in the 54th and in the 130th Engineer Brigade, and is one I was able to excel in and really learn and develop as a leader. Along the way, I also worked with other great NCOs, such as my company first sergeant, Sergeant Major Lawrence, Big Hungry, as he was better known, and my company ops sergeant, Command Sergeant Major Mann, as well as Command Sergeant Major Bucksbaum, and recently retired Command Sergeant Major Houston, just to name a few. I've also been blessed to have some great deputies, such as my company XO, Josh Stiltner, aka Stryker, and Lieutenant Colonel Brad Morgan in Nashville District, along with Lieutenant Colonel Thane Startsell and Scott Snyder here in Omaha District. But it wasn't only the uniformed service members that I was extremely fortunate to work with. It was also the 32,000 Department of Army civilians that make up the Corps of Engineers. I was very fortunate to have 8.5 years of my military career with service within USACE. Leaders like Mike Wilson and Joanne Mann in Nashville District, along with the entire corporate board for Omaha District, most of which are here today. Their professionalism, dedication, and passion to serve the nation is every bit as great as those in uniform. And one of the best parts of the Army journey has been the tremendous friends we have made along the way. Shortly after completing Ranger School and arriving at Fort Bragg, I joined an Officers Christian Fellowship Bible study, which was made up of about a half a dozen newly married lieutenants and their wives. I was the one single guy in the group. But we quickly resolved that with my marriage to Carolyn. And this became the first core group of friends that we had in the Army. That same group of friends we are still close to today. In each follow-on assignment, we made new friends along the way, whether in units and living on the installation or off post in civilian communities. These friends became our family, and we were stationed across the country and overseas. And I was surprised today when some dear friends, Matt and Jen Lautzenheiser, came to the ceremony today. I've known Jen since we were in the basic course, and I got to know Matt well when we were at the CAPS career course, and we've been lifelong friends with them. Thank you for making the trip up from Georgia and joining us today. Now, please forgive me if I get a little emotional here in the next portion of the speech as I take a few minutes to thank my family for the incredible support that they've provided me over the career. You know, my family and my faith have been an instrumental part of who I am. I would first like to thank my in-laws, Clay and Gail Sherry, who unfortunately are unable to be here due to the pandemic and travel concerns. In many ways, Clay and I followed a very similar career track, albeit he was a Navy guy. As a Navy civil engineer officer, he built stuff all over the world. He also deployed away from his family, having multiple tours in Vietnam. And Gail provided encouragement, support, and stability at home that was so vital for him to have an exceptional military career. To my wonderful sister Kate, her husband Matt, and their two sons, John and Jake, who wanted to be here as well but weren't, thank you so much for your support throughout my career, for keeping me in your prayers, for encouraging me with care packages and notes while I was deployed. And to my parents, who raised me in a wonderful, loving Christian home full of encouragement and high expectations. They set me on the right course in life and have been there for me all along. My dad instilled in me a love for engineering at an early age when he would take me to his work at Polaroid and show me the machines that he had designed, as well as all the home projects we used to do together. Every summer, my mom would plan month-long cross-country road trips for the family, sticking my sister and I in the back seat. It was during these times that my love for travel and sense of adventure was developed. My parents instilled in me the fundamental principles and the faith that have enabled me to be successful in my career. So I have a gift. There is one bag for my dad and a bouquet of flowers there for my mother. So Mom and Dad, thank you for being incredible parents. Those who know me well, you know I love being a dad, and it doesn't take much to get me talking about my kids. They are such a great joy to be with. They're full of laughter and fun. I'm so proud of each of them and their ability to adapt and change that comes with being part of an Army family. Our kids have lived in many homes and been in numerous schools. They have demonstrated the resilience that comes with growing up in a military family. Daniel, who as you know is unable to be with us as he started his freshman year at Georgia Tech, he's busy working away, taking virtual classes in his dorm room. He is a great big brother to his siblings, an excellent student. His focus and love for learning and sports has always been a great example. And we look forward to having him home here in time for Thanksgiving as he finishes up his semester. Daniel, we really miss you in the house. William, he's our family comedian and brings joy to everyone around him. He's now a junior in high school and a stellar student. I love playing a lot of sports with you and your brother Daniel, and it's become increasingly competitive as they've grown and I've aged, but I can still often beat them in basketball and ping pong, but the days of me outrunning them have long since passed. Elizabeth, I love spending time with you doing projects like the desk, which we still need to finish. We're working hard on, and I love watching you perform there in volleyball, on the volleyball court, and on the dance floor. And Josh, I'm so proud of how well you're doing. As a big 5th grader now, you bring so much joy to our family and to everyone who gets to know you and meet you. And I have some gifts there for the kids, and as well as some flowers for Elizabeth. So my wonderful wife, Carolyn, she has been an amazing Army spouse and an incredible companion throughout our journey together. Her resilience, adventurous spirit, encouragement, and strong, unwavering faith are amazing. She is God's greatest blessing in my life and daily lives the character of the Proverbs 31 woman, providing a stable, loving home in which to raise our 4 amazing children. She has in many ways had a harder road to travel over the last 24 years as I have been gone from home many times on deployments, field exercise, and travel. Through it all, she has never wavered and always been by my side, encouraging me. I love you so much. And finally, I want to thank God for a tremendous and rich blessing in my life. His plans are far better than any plan I could have devised. I'm so grateful for His grace, and I'm humbled by what He has enabled me to experience and accomplish throughout my military career. Our Army adventure, which we have so loved, is now coming to an end. It has been an incredible honor to serve the nation for the last 26 years. I want to thank all of you again for coming today, for your friendship and your support. Carol and I look forward to what God has in store for us as we begin our new chapter here in Omaha. God bless. Essay ons. Building strong, finishing strong.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join us in singing of the Engineer Song and the Army Song printed on the inside of your program. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing until the official party departs.
All right.
On behalf of the Commander of the Northwestern Division, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, thank you for attendance at today's retirement ceremony. Colonel Hudson and his family will receive friends and well-wishers in front of the flags to my left and here behind the building. Essayons, building strong, Army strong, Hula.